Hello and welcome to this new lesson, which is prepared with students of grade 12 in mind. In this episode, we're going to revise grammar, vocabulary, language functions, and setbook questions from Module 4, Unit 10. But first, we'll take a short break, then we'll be right back. So stay with us. Welcome back, dear students. As I said earlier, in this episode we're going to revise vocabulary, grammar, language functions, and setbook questions from Module 4, Unit 10. So first thing first, we'll start with vocabulary. Okay? And exercise number 1 is going to be a multiple choice exercise. So from A, B, C, and D, choose the correct word to complete the meaning of the following sentences. And sentence number 1 reads, "They climbed the mountain in just 28 days. A remarkable," and here are the options. Number 1, you have the word feat, which means achievement. B, exhaustion, which means extreme physical or mental fatigue. C, construction, which means rebuilding. And option D is the word binoculars, which is an optical instrument with a lens for each eye used for viewing distant objects. So what do you think the right word is to complete the meaning of the sentence? Well, I'll give you a few seconds to think, and the answer is feat. They climbed the mountain in just 28 days, a remarkable achievement, a remarkable feat. Right. Sentence number 2 reads, "The firemen were," after being on duty round the clock, which means that the firemen felt, and you need a word to complete the meaning of the sentence, after working for 24 days on the go. So the list of words: extreme, which means reaching a high or the highest degree, very great, or fatigued, which means tired or exhausted, strong-willed, which means determined or stubborn, or the word exhilarated, which means feeling very happy. So after working round the clock, 24 days non-stop, the fireman surely felt fatigued, okay? Extremely tired and exhausted. Sentence 3, "A shop was completely burnt out last night. Police suspect," so this is a crime. We're going to talk about crime of burning a property intentionally. Which word should you choose? The word attempt, or elite, or arson, or frostbite? Well, you might have guessed it. The right answer is arson, which means the criminal act of deliberately setting fire to property, whether it is a house, a shop, or a car. Sentence 4, "Divers can remain for a long time." Unconscious, which means unable to sense what is going on. Visible, submerged, or austere. So divers are good at staying submerged, underwater. Okay? Sentence 5, "It was a or an expedition through the jungle, through the forest." This expedition is afflicted, is alight, which means on fire or burning, strong-willed, determined and stubborn, or grueling, which means extremely tiring. Well, it is an expedition through the jungle, so it must have been a very tiring and grueling expedition. Next sentence reads, "The company didn't offer clear details on what their services would scale, would entail, would crave, or would engulf," which means surround and cover something or someone completely. Well, the right answer here is the word entail, which means involve. the company was not clear enough to provide their services, to tell what their services would entail or would involve. Right, now we're going to move to the second type of exercise, which is a gap-filling exercise. Now here is the list of words, and you're going to fill in the spaces with the suitable words. The list reads: unconscious, dizzying, alight, austere, ascend, binoculars, traverse, and attempt. And here is the first sentence. It is estimated that 250,000 cars travel across the bridge every day. So from the list of words, which word means to travel across? Very good. It's the word traverse. Okay? And the whole sentence reads, it is estimated that 250,000 cars traverse the bridge every day. Good. Second sentence. The view from the top of the mountain is, it makes you feel unsteady, unstable. So what is the word that suits the meaning of the whole sentence here? It is the word dizzying. Okay? So when you look from the top of a building, a very high building, or from the top of a tower, you feel dizzy. Okay? So it is a dizzying view. Dizzying here is an adjective. Right. Next sentence. The children watched their balloons slowly going up into the sky. So we're looking for a word which means to go up. The same word could have the meaning of to climb. Okay? So what is that word? We're looking for a verb here. It is the word ascend. Okay? So they watched their balloons slowly ascending into the sky. Okay, we continue with the same exercise. Here is the next sentence. He fell after breathing in the gas. This gas must have been toxic. That's why he fell. How? He fell unconscious. Okay? So when someone is not able to see, to hear, or to sense what's going on around him, we say that he fell unconscious. Next sentence. She passed her driving test at the first try, from the first time. So a word which means a try is the noun attempt. Okay? Good. We continue the next sentence. We have a new manager in the company, and the new manager is a very man. Now the next sentence that comes after it will give some context clue to what the word needed. He is serious all the time. So he's serious. He doesn't have a good sense of humor. So the new manager is a very strict, severe, austere man. All right? We move to the next sentence. Have a look at the candle. She often falls asleep. We're talking about the lady here. She often falls asleep with the candle still burning. So another word which means burning is the adjective alight. Okay? So far, so good. Now we're going to move to the second section of this episode, which is grammar. And the grammar focus for today is going to be the past perfect simple and the past perfect continuous tenses. Plus, we're going to see the differences between using so and such. All right, so we'll start with the first type of exercise, which is a multiple choice exercise. So from A, B, C, and D, choose the correct answer. And here is the first sentence. After he had missed the bus, a taxi. And here are the options. The first one is took, second one B, takes, had taken, or taken. So what do you think the right answer is? The right answer is definitely the word took. Okay? The verb here is in the simple past because here we have two actions, and both actions happened in the past. One came before the other. We understand that. And we express that with the past perfect simple tense, had missed. The second event, the second action, should be in the simple past tense. Therefore, we chose the word took. Okay? Next sentence. Before they got to England, they're flat. So again, here we have two actions, and both happened in the past. And the options are sell, had sold, have sold, or had been selling. Now, what do you think the right answer is? Well, the correct answer is had sold. Again, we're talking about two actions. The first one action is going to England. The second action, selling their flat. Which one came first? Definitely and logically, selling their flat. So they had sold their flat first, and then they went to England. Right, let's revise the use of the past perfect simple tense. Now, we said that we're talking about the past. It doesn't have any relationship to the now, to the moment of speaking, to the present. We're talking about, for example, yesterday. And yesterday at 3 o'clock, this boy, wrote a letter. 2 hours later, at 5 o'clock, my brother or his brother came home. So we have two actions. Which one came first? Have a look at the time there. So this one happened first. The other one happened second, or next. So because this one happened first, we should use the past perfect tense. So the past perfect tense of the verb write is had written. How do we form the past perfect tense? The past perfect tense is formed by using had plus the past participle of the verb in question. Okay? So very simple. It's very straightforward. You need to learn your past participle, especially for the irregular verbs. For the regular verbs, you just add the ed marker and it's done. So remember that we start the past perfect simple tense by using the helping verb or the auxiliary verb had followed by the past participle. Good. So let's practice with the following sentence. Until 1953, nobody Mount Everest. Nobody had been climbing, had been climbed, had climbed, or has climbed. Okay, so we need to use the past perfect simple tense, and option C is the right answer. Had climbed. Good. Next sentence. Remember that we use the past perfect simple tense with wish to express a regret for something that happened or didn't happen in the past. Okay, so I wish I bungee jumping when I had the chance. Bungee jumping is an extreme sport. So went, B, had gone, gone, D, have gone. So what is the right answer? Okay, give you some time to think. And the right answer is definitely had gone. Okay, it's the verb go in the past perfect simple tense. So I wish I had gone bungee jumping. Now this means that I didn't actually go bungee jumping when I had the chance. Now also, the past perfect tense can be used or is used with third conditionals when we have if, and then you have the past perfect, and then the second part of the conditional sentence you have would have plus past participle. So if plus past perfect here. Now what is the past perfect of the verb go? Is it went, have gone, I'm going, or had gone? And right you are. Had gone is the correct answer. Next sentence, the car before she got into the shop. Now be careful with this sentence. There's a little twist in here. So had parked, hadn't parked, had been parked, or had been parking. So remember that the car here is the subject. Now normally it is the object of the sentence because the lady, the girl, did the action to the car, okay? But we brought this object to the beginning of the sentence and it became the subject. Therefore, we call this structure or this construction passive voice. Now, how do we use the past perfect tense in the passive voice? We use the auxiliary verb had been followed by the past participle. So the right answer is had been parked, and the complete sentence reads, the car had been parked before she got into the shop. Right. Now, here is a sentence that is in the interrogative form. Now, notice the question mark at the end of this sentence. So this is a question. And when we ask a question, do we say he had left, had he leave, had he, or had he left the house before he told him the truth? Remember, when we ask a question, it is a yes-no question, but when the verb is in the past perfect tense, we start with the auxiliary verb had, and then the subject, and then the past participle. So the right option in here is D, had he left the house before you told him the truth. Okay, now let's move to the next sentence, which reads, I had seen the movie, you finished the book. And here are the list of words. So after, before, while, and yet. What I want you to do here is to choose a word that will show the sequence of actions. Remember, both actions are in the past. So which one came first? I had seen the movie or finished the book? Okay, so I had seen the movie before you finished the book. Okay, so the right word here is option B. I, sushi, before I came to Japan. I had never eaten, I had eaten never, see, I never had eaten, or I never eaten. Now I want you to use the past perfect tense in verbs which are in the negative form. So the right answer here is had never eaten. So if you want to use a negative marker such as not or ent in the short form or the contracted form or never, you split the auxiliary verb and the past participle, and in between you put that negative marker. So here you say had not eaten, or hadn't eaten, or had never eaten. Okay? We move to the next sentence. John entered the room. The thief had already escaped. Again, we're talking about the sequence of actions here. So which expression should be used? By the time, if, no sooner, or by next week. The right answer here is, come on, have a go. The right answer is by the time. So by the time John entered the room, which means before he entered the room, the thief had already run away, had already escaped. No sooner the station than the train left. So no sooner I had reached, had I reached, or did I reach? Now here I want to tackle the question of word order when we use negative adverbs in the beginning of a sentence. So which word order should we use? It's definitely B. Had I reached. We need to invert. We call this inversion. So we need to invert the helping verb and the subject. And the right answer becomes had I reached. Okay, next sentence. He had been ill for some weeks, he died. Now, do we say, or do we use before, until, already, or after? Well, it's common sense here. Okay, it's the meaning that comes into play. So you can't say, after he had been ill for some weeks, he died. Oh, you can say that. But what you can't say is, before he had been ill for some weeks, he died. Okay, so it's not common sense. Right? Now let's move to the next sentence. What I want you to use here is so, such, as, or enough. To complete this sentence, the food at the hotel was awful that I couldn't eat anything. We should use so. So is used before adjectives. Such is used before nouns or a noun phrase. And the noun phrase is an article followed by an adjective, an optional adjective, and a head noun. Okay? So we say, such a strong man. Is the article, strong is the adjective, and the head noun is man. Okay? So let's practice with this sentence. It was a good book that I couldn't stop reading it. It was enough a good book. It was neither a good book, so a good book, or such a good book. Good job. The last one makes sense. It was such a good book that I couldn't stop reading it. Now, I was tired that I went to bed straight away. Okay? Such tired, as tired, so tired, or enough tired. I'll give you a few seconds to think. Right? I was. Tired is an adjective. Remember what I said. Such is used before a noun or a noun phrase. For an adjective, we use the word so. Great. Let's move to the second exercise of the grammar section. Correct the underlined mistakes. Okay? We had been playing tennis for only a few minutes when it had started raining heavily. Now, first mistake is this. So we should say, we had been playing, past perfect continuous. Okay? And to form the past perfect continuous, as we'll see later on in the quick revision, we use had been plus the present participle. And to form the present participle, we use the base form of the verb followed by ing. Okay? And we should use the continuous form here because we have the word for. Okay? The stress here is not on the action, is not on the event itself, but rather on the duration. Okay? It is an ongoing event. And the second verb should be in the simple past tense. So the right answer is started. Right, now let's do a quick revision of the past perfect continuous tense. We use the helping verb or the auxiliary verb had been followed by the present participle, which means the verb plus ing. So remember this rule very well, had been plus present participle. Okay? Good. And we use the past perfect continuous to talk about the duration of an activity, okay, that continued up to a specific point in time in the past. Here is an example. They had been talking for over an hour before she arrived. Here is the timeline. We're not talking about the present. We're not talking about now. We're talking about something in the past. She arrived. And before this, before she arrived, they had been talking. Okay, so it was an ongoing event. Right. So also the past perfect continuous is used to talk about an action which were repeated in the past. For example, the girl had been having sleepless nights and feeling very nervous before she was treated. So here is the timeline. We're not talking about the present. Okay, we're talking about last Friday, and also this action happened again on Saturday, on Sunday, on Monday, and then she was treated. Okay, before that, the action was repeated many times, and to talk about this repetition, we use the past perfect continuous tense. So try to continue and correct these verbs. We had been thinking about buying a new house, but then we decided to stay here. Now, instead of using being, which is incorrect, we should use been instead. Okay? Next sentence, the ground was wet, it had raining. There's something missing in here. Had raining. We should say had been raining. Okay? Now, next sentence, I went to the hospital to see my friend. He had been breaking his leg during a football match. Okay? So had been breaking his leg means that it was a repeated action, as if he were breaking his leg on purpose many times, which doesn't make sense. So to correct this verb, we should use the past perfect simple tense, which is had broken. I haven't seen my old friends for such a long time, not so a long time. Such is used before a phrasal, a noun phrase. Okay? A long time is the noun phrase. I couldn't, do we say standing? After a model, we use the base form of the verb. So we say, I couldn't stand the film. It was boring. Boring is an adjective, so we should say so boring. Now let's move on to language function. So what would you say in the following situations? Here's the first situation. You are hiking and one of your companions falls and injures himself. What I want you to see here is that we can realize a certain situation by using a variety of exponents, a variety of sentences. You have to imagine the situation and talk as if you were realizing that situation. Okay, so in here you can ask for help, you can express concern and worry, you can give a suggestion or an advice. And here are a few answers. So, well, I don't want to scare anybody, but this might be a serious spine injury. Please, someone calls the rescue team. Another possible answer is, and here I'm imagining that I'm talking to the injured person. So I say, try to relax. The rescue team will be here any minute. Also, it's possible to imagine that I am confused. I don't know what to do. So I say, oh my God, what am I supposed to do? Or I can say, does anyone have a professional first aid training? Okay, I'm asking for help. Or I could say, and I'm over the phone, I'm talking to a rescue team, so I say, please help. We've got a hiker who fell unconscious. He suddenly felt breathless and collapsed. It's also possible to say, please, someone passes me the first aid kit. I need a bandage to immobilize the twisted ankle. Or we can also it's also possible to say, don't panic, dude. This isn't a serious injury. It's just a simple sprain. Or, let me disinfect the wound. You must have scraped your arm against a rock. Now, have you noticed that we can express so many, we can realize a certain situation in so many different ways? Now, it's your turn to practice. Your friend asked you about your car after the accident. So you can imagine the following situation where you have a minor scratches. So, well, it still goes all right, but it's badly scratched. It has to be repainted. Okay? You can also imagine such a situation when the car is completely destroyed. So you say, it is damaged beyond repair. I am actually looking for a car to buy. Or you could say, unfortunately, it was so badly damaged, it couldn't be repaired. I intend to scrap it. Okay? Here is another situation. You heard the bad news that a friend was seriously injured in a stunt attempt. A stunt attempt is a dangerous attempt, a hazardous one. So you could say, I'm in a complete shock. This shouldn't have happened. Or you can say, the news came as a complete shock to me. He was physically and mentally prepared for the stunt. Okay? Or you can say, I'm so sorry to hear that. Right? Possible also to say, I knew something terrible like this would happen one day. Let's pray he recovers soon. Here is another situation. You're trying to convince your brother not to go bungee jumping. So you could simply say, what are you trying to prove, brother? I know you are adventurous, but this is extremely hazardous. Or you can say, it's too risky. If something goes wrong, the accident could be fatal. Please come to your senses. You want to go mountain climbing, but your parents don't think you should. So you're trying to convince them. I am sure you'll feel proud when I bring you back photos of me standing on the summit of the mountain. Okay, dear students, let's move to the last part of this episode, which is Setbook Questions. And question number 1 is the following. What qualities would a person need to survive extreme conditions? Okay, so the answer to this, okay, so you could think of the word motivation or courage, the word determination, endurance, strong will, or self-confidence. So you can combine these words together in order to come up with a meaningful sentence or many meaningful sentences if you want to answer in details, right? We move to the next question. What are the risks mountaineers could run into in case of a mishap? So in case something goes wrong while mountaineering, then what could happen? Yes, so worst case scenario. First of all, there is always the risk of a fatal accident. Death is a possibility. Many mountaineers lost their lives while striving to fulfill their dreams. Now, disability is another serious risk, okay? And also, head and neck fracture is not an uncommon injury. Now, adding to that, the risk of being lost in an avalanche or in a blizzard, okay? Now, let's move on to literature time, and today we're going to answer questions of general nature related to episode 4. Okay, so, and here is the question, how do people feel when they hurt a close friend? Right, so the answer could be, hurting a friend unintentionally makes people feel guilty and remorseful. This could lead to continual anxiety, deep sorrow, and bitter sadness. And last question, what is the consequence of an extravagant lifestyle? What is the consequence of spending your money and wastefully, okay, in a wasteful way? So spending extravagantly will ultimately lead to financial difficulties, such as debt or expenses you couldn't afford and bankruptcy. Dear students, thank you very much for your time and attention. This lesson has come to an end, in which we have revised vocabulary, grammar, language functions, and setbook questions from Module 4, Unit 10. Until we meet another time, thanks a lot and goodbye.